Hello?
No.
Hello.
Hi, can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
How are you, everyone?
Fine.
I
Fine.
miss you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I can see Milia and I can see Muaz. How are you? Okay, we're just gonna wait for 5 more minutes for the rest to join, okay? And then we're going to start.
Okay.
ايوه ده اللي احسن لسه كنت اقول لك لما تشوفي الفرع ايه اقرب فرع لكم
محمد. Hi, Muhammad.
ماما مش عارفه اشوف مش عارفه اشوف الولد لسه حبيبتي بس شايفه الليل ايوه حبيبتي هي لسه
Did you answer your homework?
Yes.
Was it easy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
تعالى.
Okay. How are you spending your day?
Fine.
You're
Fine.
not bored?
Yes.
You miss the school?
Yes.
Yes, I miss you too. Okay. So how many proteins? Okay. Shall we start?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Today we are going to learn about something new. Okay? It
Little
is called
Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, we shall start now. Okay. You said we're going to start Little Red Riding Hood, but you don't know what is Little Red Riding Hood. What is the name of this story? This is called traditional stories, or it is called fairy tale story. Now let us see what are the things that are so special about this story. Before, we were writing about recounts, okay? Recounts has the special features, the special things for it. It is something that we write about ourselves. It's a story, it's a true story that is written about ourselves. Okay, I'm going to repeat again because some of you entered now. Okay, we are talking about traditional stories, and it has another name. It is called fairy tale story. Okay, so it is called traditional stories or fairy tale stories. It is different than the other stories. Okay, it has some things different. We were writing about recounts, correct? Recounts has special things. It is something personal, which means that this is a true thing that happened to you, and you are writing about a thing that happened to you. This story that we are talking about, what you said, like Little Red Riding Hood, this is a story too, but it is different than the recount. How? Let us see together. I'm going to show you something. If you can see it, just point with your thumb, like okay, because I muted all the mics. Okay, just try. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen, all of you? Yes? Guys, can you see the screen in front of you?
No.
No?
Yes.
Now you can see it?
Yes.
Okay. Omar? Malik? Can you see the screen in front of you? Okay. So, traditional stories. What is the meaning of traditional stories or traditional tales or fairy tales? Okay, we are going to understand what are traditional tales. Traditional tales are stories, okay? They are stories that have been told and retold for many years. What does this mean? It means that, for example, your grandmother told it to your mother, and then your mother told it to you, and so on. So it is a story from a long time ago, and it is passed from uh, a person to another person. Therefore, they become a story that many people know, like what you said, you know, about Little Red Riding Hood, and there are some other stories like Little Red Riding Hood, and we are going to know them. There are often lots of different versions of the same story. What is the meaning? I can write Little Red Riding Hood by a way, and then I can simplify it. Simplify it means I can make it with some simple words, okay? Traditional tales are also known as fairy stories or fairy tales. Okay, as we see here, we can see here Little Red Riding Hood. We can see Robin Hood. We can see this is Cinderella. Okay. Okay. It says, can you name some story titles that are traditional tales? Okay, some of you can say, for example, as I told you, Robin Hood, as I told you, Jack and the Beanstalk, and we are going to read these stories later on. Okay, can you name any characters from a traditional tale, like what you said, Little Red Riding Hood? We said, for example, Cinderella. Okay, these are the characters from a traditional tale. But what is special about these characters? What is special about these stories? First thing, it starts with or begins with, when you read a traditional tale, it starts with, for example, once upon a time. For example, once upon a time, there was a little girl called Little Red Riding Hood, and so on. So when you start reading a traditional tale, sometimes it starts with once upon a time. It starts with a long, long time ago. It can start with in a land far, far away. Or in a faraway kingdom. Or for example, one sunny day, or did you ever hear the story of? Or it could start with early one morning. Okay. What is so special about what we can read in a traditional tale? It can have magic. If you remember the story of Cinderella, okay, when the fairy tale, the fairy woman changed her to a princess, and she wore a pretty dress, and she changed the pumpkin into a wagon, and you know this, okay? So these things happen by magic. Sometimes there is love. What happened between the prince and the princess? Talking animals. Okay, like in Cinderella, when the mice were talking, right? Good and bad. Okay, there are good characters. Okay, and there are bad characters. In Cinderella, the good characters were the fairy woman who changed Cinderella, and the bad characters were her step mother and the stepsisters. Okay, a minute. Okay. Stop. Can you please stop scribbling? Okay. Please, can you please stop scribbling on the screen? Thank you. Okay. So we said good and bad. The good people are the people or the characters that please stop scribbling on the screen. Guys, whoever is scribbling on the screen, please stop it, okay? Okay. So the good and the bad. We said the good characters are like the fairy lady or the fairy woman who changed Cinderella and made her go to the party. Okay. The bad people are the stepmother and the step sisters. Please stop scribbling on the screen. Okay. It ends up with a happy ending, and they all lived happily ever after. Okay. So it starts with once upon a time, okay, and then it ends with this happy ending. Okay, where is the setting? You know, the setting is where the story takes place, correct? Okay, what are the settings which are really famous in the traditional stories? We can have a magical kingdom, okay, a land far, far away, or a cottage, or for example, it happens in the woods, or in a forest, or in a castle. Okay. The famous or the popular traditional tale titles, we can see the Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the Emperor's New Clothes, the Little Red Hen, the Ugly Duckling, the Frog Prince, Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel, Little Red Riding Hood, Pinocchio, the Three Billy Goats Gruff, the Three Little Pigs, Rumpel, Rumpel, Still, Skin. Okay, it's a bit complicated. Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast. Okay, So these are all titles of traditional tales. Okay, we are going to read some of them. Okay, and we are going to sort out what are the different things that that we can find in a traditional tale that maybe we cannot find in any other tale, like, as we said, like magic, like good and bad, and so on. Okay. Um, okay, let me now show you something. I want you to listen to this. Mariam and Hannah, can you hear the computer? Mariam and Hannah? Can you hear this?
No. Yes.
Can you hear this? Huh? Can you see this in front of you? Can you see this man in front of you? Yes? Yes? Okay. Now this man is talking about the elements of a fairy tale. What is the meaning of element? It means that what we see so special about the fairy tale. Okay? Fairy tales usually begin with once upon a time or one day or something like that. So he's telling us that the fairy tales usually begin with once upon a time or one day or something like that. And they usually end with some kind of happily ever after. They lived happily ever after. So this is one thing that we don't find in many stories. Okay, now they have some magic or something supernatural. So changing somebody into something, okay, this is something supernatural. Of course, you cannot change, for example, your little brother into a frog, right? So this is magic. So fairy tales are not realistic. They are not real. Okay, so it says they often involve mythical characters like the elves, like the dwarfs. Okay, the dwarfs are short people, giants are large people, witches, wizards, and talking animals. Okay, says we usually have a good character who might get some help from other good characters. Okay, so sometimes, okay, or usually we do have a good character, and this good character helps others, and a bad characters who tries to ruin things. Okay, ruin things means to make things go bad. Okay. Okay, if we are talking about the settings, we talked about the characters. So we're talking about the settings, the place where this tale happened. We usually feel that it is like a very old tale, like the cottage. Look, of course, nowadays we don't live in cottages, right? Or we don't live in the forest. Okay. Okay, sometimes we have castles and princesses, but sometimes we don't. Like Little Red Riding Hood. Sometimes we have stories that people live in castles and there are princesses and prince and so on, like Rapunzel. Okay, and sometimes we have like Little Red Riding Hood who lived in the forest, who lived in a cottage, and so on. Okay, so let's recap. Let us revise what we have so far said. A fairy tale has a beginning, and that beginning can be once upon a time, a long, long time ago, and then an ending like they lived happy ever after, and things like this. Magic, we have magic. In the story, in a fairy tale story, we have magic. Mythical characters, like as we said dwarfs, we said elves, we said these characters. Settings, it could be in a forest, it could be in a castle, it could be in the woodland, okay? Good and evil. Good characters that help others, and we can have evil bad characters that ruin, that makes things go bad. Royalty means the princess and the king and the castle and these things. Okay. Now what we are going to do now is we are going to read about Little Red Riding Hood. Okay. And then we are going to answer some of the questions in the PDF that we have sent. Okay, let's start. Okay. This is Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, as we can see here in the picture, the setting of the tale or the traditional story or the fairy tale is in the forest. Yes, excellent. We can see here a lot of grass and trees. And look at Little Red Riding Hood. She is wearing a special thing, like this is the hood and the color is red, and that is where she got her name. Little Red Riding Hood. This is a hood. Okay. Okay. It says, once upon a time, that is what we heard about, or what we learned about actually when I told you, remember, a story, a traditional story, or a traditional tale, or a fairy tale starts with once upon a time. Okay, let's read. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She lived with her mother in a village near a forest. So here we can see the beginning of the story, Once Upon a Time. The character is Little Red Riding Hood. And the setting, where did she live? She lived with her mother in a village near a forest. Okay, let's continue. One day, Little Red Riding Hood went to visit her grandmother. She took a basket of food with her. Okay, this is the basket, and her mother sent her with some food. On her way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. a wolf isn't a good animal, right? This is the evil character we are going to meet. Hello, said the wolf. Where are you going? I am going to visit my grandmother who lives in the forest, explained Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf ran to grandmother's house. He went inside, put on a nightgown, and got into her bed. Now this is being really bad and evil. Please stop scribbling on the screen. A little later, Little Red Riding Hood came to the house. She knocked on the door, then went inside. She is expecting to meet her grandmother, but is she going to meet the grandmother? Let us see. Little Red Riding Hood went over to grandmother's bed. Oh, Granny, what big ears you have, she said. All the better to hear you with, answered the wolf. Okay, so Little Red Riding Hood, okay, looked at her grandmother. It wasn't her grandmother actually. And she found that her face is different. Her ears are big. And she asked, why are your ears big? And the wolf said, they are big to hear you. Okay, now she realized that this is not her grandmother. Help! Shouted Little Red Riding Hood as she realized that there was a wolf in her grandmother's bed. Realized means to know. Okay, she ran out of the house. A woodcutter was nearby. A woodcutter, he uses his axe to cut off the trees and take the woods and maybe build something with them. Okay, this is a woodcutter. He heard Little Red Riding Hood scream and ran into the house. Now this is a good or a bad character? Yes, it is a good character that will help Little Red Riding Hood. The woodcutter hit the wolf over the head. The wolf ran away and Little Red Riding Hood never saw him again. So, here in this story, what did we see in this story? Did we see magic? No. It's not a must that we find magic in every story, but we can find that good people, good characters can help other good characters, okay, to save them from the evil characters, okay? Okay, let us answer some of, we have only 10 minutes, okay? So we are going just to open our booklets. I'm going to open the booklet now. Okay, are you with me with your booklets? Okay, we have read Little Red Riding Hood. We shall answer some questions on this text, and if we didn't finish, we can finish later on. Okay, let us start. So our title is, for each and every story, we have a title. Our title is Little Red Riding Hood. Says once upon a time, there was a young girl called Little Red Riding Hood. Again here, once upon a time, to start the story. Our character is called Little Red Riding Hood. She lived with her mother and father in a caravan in the forest. This is what I call different editions, it's the same story, but it's written in a different way, okay? But it still has the main events, okay? The main things that happened in the story, still, it has the same events in each and every story you are going to read, okay? So, this is the setting. Where she lived with her mother and father in a caravan in the forest. And a caravan is a small house. Okay? Now, there's the question. Says, where did the Little Red Riding Hood live? So we are asking about the setting, about the place. Did she live in a cottage or in a house or in a caravan or in a bungalow? Okay, she lived in a caravan. Okay? One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother asked, will you take these delicious meat pies to grandmother? Yes, I will, replied Little Red Riding Hood, and off she went. So her mother asked her to take some meat pies, okay, delicious, this is an adjective to describe how tasty were the meat pies, okay, and she is going to take them to grandmother. Okay, here was the reply. This is a question, okay? So we put a question mark at the end, okay, and then she replied, yes, I will. Okay, replied Little Red Riding Hood, and off she went. Okay, what did Little Red Riding Hood take to her mother? Please stop scribbling on the screen. Okay, let's write here. He took delicious meat pies. So today our lesson was talking about traditional stories. We are going to stop here, okay? So we are going to continue the next session, okay? And I want just to recap the lesson. I want you to know that we are going to learn traditional stories or traditional tales or fairy tales. Okay, this means that we have different things in this tale or this story, different than the recount that we were um, learning about. The story can have, these stories can have magic, these stories can have good characters and bad characters. And I hope you understood what does traditional stories mean. So we are going to meet next session, inshallah. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.